Right, well, it seems the star of the show wants to bug around with his ball instead. So, how's everyone doing? Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the stream. It has been a while. It's been about a week since we last did this. That's mostly because I've just had family around for the last week, so haven't been able to get much done. We're going to be continuing with the V1.6 build. We're going to get as far into the X-axis assembly as we can and see how far we get. I'm not expecting to do too much tonight. The stream's going to be going for about an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. Jormungand, how you doing, bud? Good to see you around. Good to see you around. Jormungand, can you do me a favor? Can you do me a favor? All right. Can you time 10 minutes from now? Because in 10 minutes, we're going to do the draw from the last stream that we forgot to do. Right? We're going to do the draw for some filament from last stream because we forgot to do it. So if you remind me in 10 minutes that we need to do that. All right. And anyone else in stream, make yourselves known. Make yourselves known. It's much easier to stream when I know that there's people I can converse with. There's people I can talk to. Jack Landry, how you doing, bud? How are you doing? Right? How's everyone's day been so far? I was going to give it 2 or 3 minutes just so that I know where people are at, what people are doing. If you do want to enter the stream, there is a link down in the description at the moment. If you do want to enter the giveaway, there's a link down in the description. It's now open to the US and also to the UK. So if you're in the US and you want to get yourself a roll of Ambrosia filament from West 3D, or if you're in the UK and you want to do the same, enter down below and we'll get it sorted. Hey Thomas, how you doing? How are you doing? Also Ben, nice to see you, dude. Nice to see you. Hello, I'm finally building my 1.5 on the Z-axis now. So many bolts. Is that for the FMJs? That was one of the things I wanted to do with the V2 is lower the amount of bolts required for the FMJs. So that's if you do end up building V2, yeah, you don't need to worry about that too much. And we're gonna have a squeaky a squeaky boy down at the bottom here all of today, by the sounds of it, because he's playing with his ball. He's loving it. When was the last time I streamed? It must be about a week ago now. Yeah, must be a week ago. Okay, right, without further ado, let us actually get to some work. So there are a few things that I did last off camera, just because I didn't want to bore you with reassembling the whole thing. So I found out that the original plan was to reuse the anti-backlash nuts from V2, which I still plan to do, but they need some modifications made to them so that it would fit in V1.6. It was just an oversight I made when I was doing the CAD work that I found out about. I've also replaced most of the hardware on here. It was all reused originally from the V1.5 kit. I've replaced it all with stainless steel coated ones. I've also added another Belleville washer because I wasn't happy with the anti-backlash nut. So there's now 3 Belleville washers on it to give it a little bit more preload. And now it's solid as hell. I've also replaced the nuts with, I've doubled them up. I've got one of the C-clamp style ones that clamps right up against the flange of the bearing. And I've also got one of the brass nuts, the ones that have the TR8 lead screw thread actually built into them. And that's clamping, so it's double clamped, so it's never gonna go anywhere. Thanks, Jake, for posting the info for the onboard relay as a safety device in Discord. No worries, dude. No worries. Yeah, it's a good idea. The only issue with it is the way that RepRap firmware handles the trigger. I still need to test that actually. We may be just moving the trigger 2 over to M999, which is a system reset. It's a whole board reset rather than just an emergency stop. It should act in the same way, but it will actually reset the relay every single time. I haven't actually tested it yet. We'll have to test it another time. I have been doing a little bit of work in Casa though, on my V2, just getting things set up and ready to cut the plates on this machine, for this machine. Hey, I've missed part 1 of this build, but here to see part 2 live. No worries, Alex, no worries. Basically, the build is what we can do. We're not following any guides or anything because we haven't written them yet. Effectively, I'm just trying to see if everything fits. We did the y-axis last time, well, as much of the y-axis as we could. And this time we'll probably be moving over to either the x-axis, I'm hoping the x-axis, or the z-axis. The thing is with the, if we're doing the x-axis, I'm going to be turning around like this using my drill press most of the time. So I might just do the, yeah, I'm going to do the z-axis first actually. Yeah, let's do that instead. Seems like it's going to be the least trouble. Put that over there for now. All right. So, whilst I got people here, interested to hear people's opinions on the video I released the other day. This is the first video I've ever done. Well, first serious one I've ever done. And just wanted to hear back from you guys. You guys agree with the sentiment? Do you disagree with the sentiment? Because really, I just want to know that whether or not what I was saying wasn't utter bullshit. That's what I'm really trying to get at here. Jack Landry, totally agree. Jorgen, +2. Yeah. I think it's definitely worth considering. Because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, like, from the talks I've had with Jason this year, a lot of the kind of open source companies, the ones that actively back like Voron, Positron, all that kind of stuff, have been struggling because of everything that's happened with Bamboo. So right now, after Bamboo's made its little fucky wucky, is probably the best time for people to kind of learn about what it takes for these projects to run. Ben, agree, maybe more people working on projects like this will chime in, but I understand it's quite intimidating to do so. Yeah, it definitely is. I was sweating bullets just waiting for the comments. Luckily, I didn't get too many comments, and the ones I did get were mostly positive. There was one guy who was an utter arsehole, but I completely got rid of his comment because he was just being a dick. But other than that, it was pretty positive. Anyone who thinks we should keep open source projects underfunded should remember what happened to OpenSSL. What's OpenSSL? I'm also just gonna zoom in a little bit. There we go. Alexander Romero agreed and now donating. Well, thank you very much for donating, and thank you to all of you for donating, actually. I didn't think we were going to hit our goal straight away, so I'm going to say we didn't, but I didn't think we were going to hit it right away. But what we did manage to do is we managed to get from about $98 to $206 a month. That combined with the kickback I get from AliExpress brings us to $300. So we're a good chunk of the way to me being able to do this full time. And I genuinely cannot thank you guys enough for that, because it really does make a difference. Because what that means to me is it means that I still have to look for a job. I didn't expect it to go completely smoothly and being able to make this my job straight away. but it does mean that I can commit one more day every week to the project. And until we get to once we get to the point where it's fully funded, it means I can commit all my time, and I can quit my main job and start focusing on this full time. But as we get closer and closer to that goal, I can also take more and more time off of the main work. OpenSSL is the backbone of online encryption. Basically, your bank probably uses it to secure your transactions. Oh, cool. Very cool. Very cool. I totally understand it's difficult to advertise and ask for money. I think it has to be done for such a project to be successful. I'm supported by a Patreon and 9 miles GitHub. Oh, thank you very much, bud. Genuinely, thank you all for being so kind. It's been awesome. There is more than just that video coming, by the way. I've decided that whilst I've got the time off between now and March, when hopefully my next job starts, I'm gonna make a bit more content. I'm gonna try and do a mixture of things. I'm gonna try and do bits of design theory. So the next video, which has already been filmed and I'm just in the middle of editing it, is all about why I think Milo V2 is going to be better on lead screws than it is on ball screws. And it's not just about that, it's about the understanding of the intent of the designer. So there's going to be some more kind of like high level stuff like that going on. And then hopefully there's also going to be things like, I'm also working on tuning guides. So I've been printing all week. When I've got the chance, I've been printing and CNCing these little test pieces. So these are square, diamond, circle tests. So the idea is these are oversized by 2 millimeters in every direction. You print these out with quite thick walls. You stick them in your vise and you tell it to mill down to a certain size. And that's how you calibrate your steps per millimeter on each axis. And that's quite important, especially for CNC, that your steps per millimeter for your axes are set properly. So that's going to be the next tutorial after the video I'm about to release. Sorry, I should have said loud warning. Hello, Jake. I've not been up to date with Millennium, but I'd like to ask how many non-printed parts will be reusable between the V1.5 and V1.6. So FMJs are going to stay. All the extrusions are going to stay. All the rails are going to stay. All the rail carriages. All the screws are going to stay. Hopefully, I believe the CAD is correct, but we're only going to be able to tell that at the end of this. All the printed parts need to be changed, which is just a byproduct of it being such a major change. And then other than that, the plates need to be changed. But the good news is, if you do have a V1.5, all the plates are millable on the V1.5 for the V2, for the V1.6 and V2. So you can still make it on the machine that you have. Why? Lots of projects are underfunded. People have no idea about their actual status unless they tell us very loudly. Yes, exactly. I agree with you there. I did not believe how much steps calibration mattered coming from 3D printing. Calibrating made a major difference. Yes, it does. The reason you don't... Okay, this is my reasoning. I don't actually know if this is the proper reasoning. The reason you don't calibrate it as much in the steps per millimeter in 3D printing is A, because there's an amount of elasticity that you have in each axis of a 3D printer, and because you're working with another dimension, which is flow dynamics, and you can never be sure whether or not the issues you're seeing are due to the axis steps per millimeter or because of the flow dynamics of the plastic being melted. So it's really, so the theory behind it is that you leave steps per millimeter alone, you don't touch them, and you work on the flow dynamics first. Okay, sick. I have V1.5, but I really need to tune it majorly. Yeah, it does take a little bit of tuning. The big issue is whenever you tune steps per millimeter, you also have to go through the last part of the MOS wizard, because if you tune steps per millimeter, your reference surface is going to be in a slightly different location to the original location, and your probe point is also going to be in a completely different location. So you need to tune it every single time you change steps per millimeter, and that can become quite tiresome. There's no real way around it. Okay, so what you saw me doing earlier was just whacking the this extrusion on the side. So this extrusion in here used to sit a lot lower. It's now being pushed up so that this piece can sit flush underneath. Now, obviously, if you're building this from scratch, you don't need to do that. It's just that this makes it easier for me. I also finally got an ACU order, so I have all my fasteners that I actually need. I've not been good with maintaining it, and my cuts are showing, so the tuning guides would be great. What's actually up with it? Do you know? Or are you kind of at the point where you're like, it's not working, but I don't know why it's not working yet? +1 for tuning guides, tutorials. That measuring block looks great. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good idea, because it's just the problem with using that is that plastic does shift a little bit, especially when it takes on moisture. It's not always dimensionally accurate all the time. So using something like ABS, which doesn't take too much water on, and there's also the issues of if your cutting parameters aren't correct, then you're going to see melting occur, because you should be taking like 2 or 3 times the chip load that you would on aluminium for plastic, so it's not melting. The issue is with the ball screws on this machine currently, I can't do that. So I need to kick my ass in gear and actually get myself to do that. Wood, cheap and easy for dimensional stuff. Yeah, I agree with you. The issue is wood's more expensive than a single print. And wood also, you get, depending on the wood, unless you're using a hardwood, if you're using MDF, never take a measurement off of MDF, because it fluffs up when you mill it, and that can get in the way of the teeth of your calipers. So you need to be using quite a hardwood like oak or ash or something like that. I think ash is a hardwood. Yes, I think so. So you kind of need to, and then it's also a mess to clean up, like Thomas said. You need to take that into account. Right, I don't need M3s for now. Not when you're mid-renovation and have offcuts to your eyeballs. Yes, well, not all of us can be as cool as you, Dave. It's hard work being as cool as Dave. There's some, you know, if you are religious at all, I'm not, but there are some things I tell myself I'm religious for. God created people who are handsome. He created people who are smart. And luckily, for the most part, those two are quite separate. Then you get Dave. And the only benefit the only downside that Dave has is that he's from Sheffield, which kind of makes up for it. That's what pallet size orders are for. Yes, but pallet size orders are expensive. Ooh, sorry, bud. Brisket dropped a bunch of, he jumped up on the counter in the kitchen earlier and sent a whole load of shit flying. So He's quite scared of loud noises. He doesn't like the noise of my screwdriver right now. I'm not sure if it's my feeds and speeds, rigidity, or something else, but I mostly make fingerboard molds that have little bumps along the path, and I also struggle to get smooth facing passes. It sounds to me like one of the plastic parts is potentially cracked and is pushing up and down. So you're effectively getting backlash, but it's backlash because your frame is compromised in a way, and not because the screw is effectively not because the screw is badly preloaded or anything like that. But I really need to tune my mill like badly, which I think is the reason for the facing passes. Yeah. Okay. What kind of cuts are you taking? Shouldn't be too much of an issue, surely. Oh, one other update that it's an unfortunate one. It will be fixed, but I can't give it any time right now. And I don't think it's going to be necessary at launch. Because of the issues I found with the lead screws and having to have the lead screw nut block change designs a little bit, I couldn't pass these along to the ball screw ones. So at launch, V1.6 won't be supporting the ball screws. But I will spend some time after it's launched to get them supported. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue because most people are going to be upgrading from V1.5 to V1.6 with all the stuff from the V1.5 kit anyway. So they won't have ball screws. It will come, it just won't come at the same time. So that is at least a little bit of an update for you guys. I know it's unfortunate, but it's one of those things. Right. So, same thing we did last time, but with more. More. So I need some dowel pins. I need some Belleville washers. Are these the ones? Yes, those are the ones. Pins, and then a bunch of M3 nuts and shit. Also, welcome Carl Adams. I didn't say welcome to you before. What are you doing? Sorry for yelling, but the 10 minutes have gone for some time now. Perfect. Okay, in that case, I'm going to leave this on the side for now. You have until I get the form closed off and ready to go to enter into the filament giveaway down in the description. Right? If you're in the US, you can apply to it. If you are in the UK, you can apply to it. Right? So, the application is down in the description. Go ahead, apply to it. Win yourself a chance. Sorry, get yourself a chance to win some Ambrosia, Filament of the Gods from West 3D, from either West 3D themselves, sponsored by Alan from West 3D and that lot, or from DMS here in the UK. What was I looking for? This is what I was looking for. Right. Okie doke. Actually, keep it on my face for now. Right, there are only 3 entries so far. Only 3 entrants so far, so I'm going to give it a little bit more time. It'll give it a little bit more time, or it's going to be a 3-way race. I'm going to give you 1 more minute. 1 more minute if you want to enter to win yourself some Ambrosia, Filament of the Gods. I need another monitor. Yes, in Spanish, yes. I'm in the EU and I didn't apply to it. Okie doke. If you know anyone in the UK who can send the filament to, or can send you the filament, then also apply and we'll just organize it like that. If you have any friends in the EU or in the States, go ahead. Joseph Carver, how you doing? Joseph Carver, now that you've joined, link in the description. Win yourself some Ambrosia filament if you're in the UK or the US. You have 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Go, 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 go. Perfect. I see Joseph in. All right, looks like it's going to be a 4-way race. Oh, people are joining. People are joining. Right, you got 10 more seconds. I'm going to say you got 10 more seconds. Ooh, that Ambrosia's pre stuff. I am in, thanks. Perfect. No, the odds are getting worse. Okay, perfect. I'm going to close this off now. Right, accepting responses. No. Perfect. So it is a 5-way race right now. There we go. Right. So entries are closed in 3, 2, 1. And he's in by the skin of his teeth. Well done, Joseph. You won yourself a roll of filament from Ambrosia from West 3D. Good on you, mate. What I'll do is I'm going to pass your information on to either Dave or Alan, wherever you are in the world, and we'll get you your filament. There is another roll going at the end of the stream, so if you do stay on until the end of the stream, I will reopen up the... Ooh. There we go. Screen's gone black. Screen should be coming up. Hello, why is screen not coming? There we go. Perfect. Yes, it is limited to whatever they have in stock, whether it be PLA, ASA, all that stuff. As long as they got it in stock, you can have it. Just let me get this sorted. Right. Okay, perfect. Yes, I've got all your details here, man. We'll pass them on to whoever needs them. It is going to be Alan, so you're going to be getting this from West 3, so expect an email from West 3D, and we'll get you your filament. Sorted. So, the facing passes with 6mm 1 through N mil are 18,000 RPM, which I feel may be way too much going at 900 millimeters a minute. They have Voronrod ASA GF. Want to try too? Oh, cool. No worries, Joseph. Okay, in terms of facing up, what's your step over? Because that doesn't sound too bad at all. That sounds pretty on the money, to be honest. I'm actually going to move this back over here so we can do the screws first. My usual feeds and speeds for a cut like that would be about a 40 to 50% step over, about 1 to 2 mil deep. Yeah, that seems all right. It doesn't, I don't think your feeds and speeds are the issue there. I don't think your feeds and speeds are the issues there. It might be a tram error if you're getting really bumpy. Are the bumps quite not linear, recurring in the same pattern? Is there a pattern to it, or is it just random? 3.6 is like a 60% step over. That doesn't sound out of the realm of possibility. Oh, and at a 0.75 step over. First of all, increase your step down, go to at least 1 millimeter. The reason you want to do that is because if you go too low on your step down, you're effectively just creating dust, and the dust is what destroys your screws, because it can get between wave covers, it can get into the screws, it can gunk up the grease that you're using, and it can really destroy stuff. You want to be creating chips, not dust. So at least a millimeter step down. At least a millimeter step down. Your step over seems fine. Maybe reduce it down to 3 mil, because that's a 50% step over. Your RPM seems fine. I think there's something structurally wrong with your Milo at that point. Right. Let's do some heat sets. Oh, damn it. Put the heat set in the wrong side. Luckily, it doesn't really matter too much. Luckily, it doesn't matter too much. Yeah, I think there's something definitely structurally wrong with your setup. There might be some micro cracks in some of the plastic parts, something like that. It doesn't seem to me like your settings are wrong by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, cool. The reason I do 0.75 was just because the stock I use for my molds is 1 millimeter oversized on the sides, but I think I can probably do something. It's 1 millimeter oversized on the sides, but I think I can probably do something on the sides. I'm confused by what you mean there, but okay. My English is dying. It's all good. We all have those days. We all have those days. Not judging at all. I just want to know how I can help. That's it. I also need to restock on heatset inserts. Turn that off whilst we're doing heatsets. How long have we been going for? How long have we been streaming for? If you're worried about dimensional accuracy, you can always do a roughing pass and then finishing pass to take the last bits off. Yes. In Fusion, if you're using Fusion, there is a stock to leave on pretty much every single operation that you can do. If you leave about 0.5 millimeter of stock, then for every operation, and then do a finishing pass afterwards, that should cover you for most issues. I need that in a bit. But it sounds like check everything for problems, like check, yeah, exactly. Guess if there's going to be 1 millimeter left, a step down of more than 1 millimeter is difficult. Yes. So this is what I do. This is why I always design 2 versions of every CNC part I make. So if you're using a rough extruded aluminium plate of some kind, then you've got to leave yourself some margin to do some facing cuts. I leave myself about 0.6, so you get 0.3 on one side, 0.3 on the other side, just so that you can get a flat plate. I also try and get my as close to my plates and CNC parts as close to the nominal size of cast tooling plate. So for example, the plates that are going to be cut on V1 for V1.6 on my V2 are a nominal thickness of 10 millimeter. Cast tooling plate is ground on both sides, so it's perfectly 10 millimeters at all times. So I don't need to do any facing cuts on this. But I also supply a model just in case I did want to do it out of some cast stuff instead. So on that kind of plate, all I would need to do with the only operations I would be doing are boring operations and some contour ops. Everything else I just leave. Wait, what about being out of tram? That would show up most in facing cuts. It shows up more with bigger end mills. The bigger the end mill, the worse tram error comes, and it forms in very even ridges. Gonna be that guy, but not perfect. He's not perfectly flat, but it's good enough. You are very correct, Dave. Cast tooling plate isn't perfectly flat, but it is good enough because you can account for any unevenness. Here's the thing. This could be a lot bumpier. It could be a lot bumpier, and it would still be just as good, because it's not. You're not betting everything on it being flat, right? As long as it's rigid in whatever orientation you put it in, whatever place you put it in, and it's flat enough, and you're happy with it, you can always adjust for any intolerance in the flatness when you're doing your tramming. If you really need something to be flat and you can't adjust it afterwards, then it matters. But for something like the Z plates for Milo, it matters less. Obviously, I wouldn't want something that's extremely bumpy, but yeah. I can probably mill the sides down from top with the side of the flute rather than the bottom. Yeah, side milling always takes less, always puts less stress on tooling than milling with the end of the cutter as well as the side. The facing, I think, is out of tram, but with the finishing passes, I think something in the mill is broken. The way you can check for tram error, a really, really bad tram error, is if you just go to your smallest end mill. If you still see those ridges quite predominantly, it means you've got a really, really bad tram error. Because, like I said, you see it less when you have smaller end mills, when you're using smaller end mills, and when you're using smaller. Yeah, my tram is shite. Yes. I do have a tramming tool somewhere. Yeah, tramming tool. You don't need to buy one. You don't need to buy one. Stop buying expensive tramming tools. This is a printed part. There's one hole on this end. There's one hole on this end. It clamps down on both of them, and a rod. Right? That is all you need to check your tram. What I did on V2 a couple weeks ago. Works perfectly. Get some sticker on your end mill and check that way. Yes, that's also another option. Also another option. Right, I'm getting distracted. I need to do screws. Gonna need some M3 hardware. 3x10. Now loading. How you doing, bud? Well, where you buy blocks for milling, as in stock. You're talking about stock or 1, 2, 3 blocks? Because they both come from very different places. What am I doing? Why am I putting that there? I need some 3x40s. I don't even have the machine, just wondering how much cost. It depends a lot wherever you are in the world. I know the UK on average is more expensive than if you source it in the US. And even in the US, state per state is very, very different. But that might be changing soon, so the US may be finally need to come to terms with the fact that they can't get cheap metal and cheap material anymore, which is kind of sad. Kind of sad. I saw Nero's stream the other day. Man, he did not look happy. Man, he did not look happy. I felt so bad for the guy on that day. How to search it? Just look up metal suppliers, or actually no, look up cast tooling plate or aluminium plate cut to size on Google, and it will give you all your local suppliers and all their prices, because a lot of the time it's depending on the size of the sheet that you're buying. Bigger stock tends to be not that much more expensive than smaller stuff, right? So for example, the 5 small plates I ordered for the milling of the Z and XY plates for V1.6 cost more than the big honking plate for Atlas. So this costs less than those little plates. Mostly because you're not always paying for the material, you're paying for cutting time. So more cutting time, so the smaller the plates are, the more they need to be cut from the main mother material, and the more it will cost. But obviously that's being offset by the fact that you've got less material. So yeah, so 5 of these plates cost more than that big one did, and that's about twice as thick as well. Keep an Excel spreadsheet open and try to find the optimal pound per millimeter cubed. Yeah, that works. If you're in the UK, Click Metal. Click Metal does some really good stuff. I know that Tom Stanton also uses them. So yeah. Also, if you're wondering, yes, the machine that Tom Stanton is building is very much the inspiration for Atlas. Very much the inspiration for Atlas. But I have been wanting to build a machine like that for a very long time anyway, so it's not entirely because I wanted to do what Tom Stanton was doing, but it is partially. Yeah, avoid Metal Supermarket. Metal Supermarket, they fucked me over too many times. They fucked me over too many times. Pretty much every single time I've ordered from them, they've either lost it, so had to send out a new pack. The cuts that they've made have been wonky as hell, or they've been super expensive. So I would avoid Metal Supermarket like the plague. Also check eBay, because a lot of machine shops have offcuts. So I wouldn't, if you're buying offcuts, know what you're buying, because a lot of the time you'll just get wonky bits of metal, but it'll be cheaper on average. So know what you're buying, really. Looks fine to me. Yes, one-eyed. If you close one eye, everything looks fine. Right. So, what has everyone been up to today? I've had a really productive day, actually. Well, I say Brisket's had a really productive day. Brisket has been out on 5 walks today because he has been crazy with puppy energy, and I'm just trying to tire the fucker out, effectively, which I seem to have done quite well, because he is out like a light. Buy bar stock if you can, and not plate if you can. Also much cheaper. Yes, bar stock is much cheaper. So if you're working with stuff that's only about 2 inches wide, so if you try and make hold down clamps, for example, which Dave has a really good video on, plug to Dave at 3DP and me. Yeah, if you're trying to do hold down clamps, stuff like that, it's much cheaper to get bar stock. Because it's all extruded in one big piece. So all they need to do is, instead of getting like a 2-dimensional cut, they literally just go. I know I love my little mimes. Paul Fallon, how you doing? I found eBay good for small metal stock UK. Yeah, eBay's good. eBay's good for stuff like that. The issue is there are some people on eBay who just charge way too much. Like, I never thought they would be scalping for offcuts. All right, so because there's an extra Belleville washer now, what I've taken to doing to make this process a little bit easier is because it now doesn't sit. So with 2, it sits below the top end of the lead screw nut, whereas with 3, it sits above it and it can move about. So what I've taken to doing is I now partially thread the lead screw through, which kind of means that it captures that last one a bit better, and that's going to be easier to put on. Once it's actually compressed a little bit, you can take the screw back out. But until you get it compressed, have that initial compression. Someone sell bags of bamboo poops for crafting on eBay. Never underestimate the hustle. Yeah. Well, it seems to be that the way bamboo's going at the moment, bamboo poop is going to mean a whole different thing in the next few weeks. Also, what do people think of the Core 1? What do people think of the Core 1? I'm going to wait until I see a few people's opinions on it before I say anything. What do people think of Prusa's new Core 1? It's just too expensive. Okay. We got Dave saying too expensive. Anyone else's opinions on it? I'm not a Prusa fanboy. Don't worry. I'm not a shill for them. I have no loyalty to anyone. Expensive. The whole I can get a printer plus AMS for less than that printer is mad. Looks like classic Prusa to me, but good but spendy. I think for a Prusa and the QA and support, you can expect it's reasonable. I'm more into building my printers though. The worry I have is it's still going to be slower comparison to the Bamboos. Yeah. So a few years ago when Bamboos started coming out, and I think it was when the Mark 4S dropped, Joseph Prusa went on, I don't even remember if it was still Twitter back then, but X. And he said that the benefits of printing slower is that you get machines that are, you get parts that are much stronger, have much better mechanical properties. So he didn't want to go super fast. I think he realized really soon that you can always slow down a fast printer to get the mechanical properties that you want, but it's a lot harder to speed up a slow printer. You can slow down a fast printer, you can't speed up a slow printer very easily. I was really surprised by the multi-head Prusas only win out over the Bamboos with AMS. Nobody will shut down my Vorons with some cloud service. I agree. So we've had a few responses there. I like the Core one. I like it. I don't think it's a good business move. I like the fact they have the reduced build volume printer. I like the fact that it's fully enclosed, Core XY machine, but we're in a world where that's not a standout quality. I do expect the Prusa is going to have the amazing support that they've always had with the machines. I do expect that. And the thing is, it's not the worry I have is it's not competing with the X1C. Because feature for feature, right, it competes more in the P1S realm, but for twice as much. And the only reason it costs twice as much is because they went to the lengths of making it upgradable from a Mark 4S. Sometimes, and this is why we went through the whole V2 revision thing, sometimes it's better just to start from scratch. And I think they should have done that with the Core one. Or they should have taken their farm system, because they have the Prusa farm system, and just made it smaller. And people are going, oh, it's not competing with the P1S because it has the ability to print multicolored. But so does the P1S, and the multicolored on the Prusa is more akin to the ERCFA. And the issue with the ERCFA is it's not a self-contained unit. So if you want multicolored printing, you have to hang your filament on the wall next to a printer, which not everyone can do because a lot of people live in apartments and things like that. And if you've ever used an ERCFA, you'll know that getting the spools tangled and having to have the buffer system is a nightmare. It's a nightmare to deal with. I don't think the X1C competes with much these days. The people who really care about 3DP will be less likely to recommend Bamboo. I agree with you. I will never, ever recommend Bamboo stuff ever again. In fact, I've stopped buying anything from them. I don't think you should ever buy one. I don't think you should ever buy one. But I think what Bamboo realized when they started this whole debacle was that professionals were using the machines just as much as hobbyists were. And that hence the reason why Stratasys is suing them. And just a word on that. If you're one of the people who thinks that Stratasys should win their court case against Bamboo, don't. Because that Stratasys, that patent that they're suing Bamboo for affects all 3D printer manufacturers. It's the one thing that, despite the fact that I hate Bamboo, it's the one thing that I still am rooting for them for, is that if they lose that patent, if they lose that that court case, everyone's fucked. Right? And only Voron will survive, which isn't a bad thing. But yeah, Stratasys is the big bad guy here, then Bamboo, and then everyone else is fine to me. Yeah, it would be a precedent, like Dave said. If they set the precedent, if they win that case, then everyone's fucked. And the only way things will get done is the way that it used to be done in the open source world, where everyone was making, you only have kit builders. So all the Voron people would be happy. I know Nomad would be so happy by that. After recent events, I won't buy another, but I will continue to use my P1P since I just need a printer that works and my two Enders are not that. I agree with you. I'm going to be using my two P1Ss until one of two things happen. Until they either break, or until Big Tree Tech releases a board where I can clipperize it, which hopefully would happen soon. But I would only clipperize it after it started to break. Okay, let's get the preload on this set. Voron printers won't be happy if every printer manufacturer can't sell machines anymore. We won't be able to get materials either. This is true. Wouldn't it be so nice if we could move away from FDM and have, you know, a cheap, easy to use, open source SLS machine? Oh wait, we had that, and then Formlabs decided to buy them out. We had that with Micronics. Yeah, let's root for Bamboo on this one thing, but this one thing only. I've stopped buying my filament from them. I used to buy all my filament from them. My latest order has been from Voxel Lab. Voxel Lab have limited colors in the UK, but I'm not big into lots of big colors anyway, so it doesn't affect me all that much. It's a huge health and safety risk. Yeah, there is that. There is that. So is sticking your hand in a CNC machine. Don't do that. Please, don't stick your hand in a CNC machine. I buy PLA direct from Creality for 90 quid per tens. Yeah, that works. Sticks hand in big machine with spinning bits. Yeah. Oop, I'm over doing that. Okay, well, I over tightened that by a little bit. By a little bit, I mean a lot. Good thing I have a replacement plate. And I stripped it so badly that I can't. I really need to get myself some driver bits that aren't Torx, because I've been using, on my electric screwdriver, just been using Torx bits. And I've stripped one of them. So the one I need for M3 hardware is now stripped. I'll buy proper tools proper ones eventually. The thing is, I love Vera tools. I love Vera tools, but they do mostly talks with all their kits. And I like having tool kits. I like buying tools in kits. And they don't really have very many Allens. They have like 2 Allen keys sizes in their bit sets, and everything else is talks. And I know everyone's gonna tell me that talks is better. Yes, talks is better, but it's cheaper. It's cheaper to get Allen bolts than it is to get talks, and that matters. When I first saw an SLM machine from the outside, I realized just how much I should never get anything that even resembles that. Fair. Very fair. Also, all right. Am I going mad here? Am I going mad here? I have an Amazon monitor in here, an Amazon air quality monitor. I know it's not the best thing ever, but it does connect to Alexa, and I use Alexa to control everything in my house. I should probably one day move over to Home Assistant, but I'm not that big of a nerd just yet, and Home Assistant scares me. So for now, it's Alexa stuff. And I've got a Bosch sensor somewhere, which I think it's in the kitchen, but I have used it in this room. Am I the only one who doesn't see very many VOCs when I'm printing? I have almost none. And it's beginning to freak me out because the Amazon sensor is hooked up to my Alexa, and it turns my filters on whenever VOCs get too high or whenever particle count gets too high. And it seems to take a lot of printing at one time just to get the VOCs high enough for those filters to kick on. I bought some Vera hex bits last week, 2.5 and 3mm. I can't. Yeah, you can buy them, but buying them individually is so expensive. They're like a $5 for one piece on Amazon, at least. I don't know where else to buy them. Don't know who. Star Trek Replicator, then. Yeah. I've got no hexes. I've got Paul Fallon. I've got no hexes that are compatible with my screwdriver. I've got tons of Torx bits. Yeah, I've got. Yeah, so the smallest Allen key I have in this kit, which is the one I use for my screwdriver, is too big for M5. For M5 cap head screws. Do I have? Yes. Woo. Nope, and that's too big for M3. Oh God. I have to admit, I'm a bit of a sucker for the LTT ratchet screwdriver. Yeah, I want one so badly. They just they're like $80 for a screwdriver, and for a tool, like I'm not gonna be the one who says that I don't want to pay good money for my tools, because I buy mostly Vera tools and they're expensive. So I'm not going to be one of those guys who says that it's too expensive. It's just too expensive to get in the UK for a bit of tooling that I probably wouldn't use very much. Where are you at? I did print another plate out. Pretty sure I printed another plate out. There it is. You can buy spare packs of hex bits from them, like directly from them. Yeah, I have a precision hex kit. I have the precision screwdriver kit. These are great. I love these. The issue is the ones I have don't have, they're one size too small for M3 screws. I use them a lot for the M3 button heads because they fit those, but not for the socket heads. The socket heads don't fit. All right, let's unscrew this plate. Got the bigger kit, which has an extra tray in the wallet with 2 to 6 mil hex. Okay, right. Well, I guess once I can afford it, I will spend. I'll give Vera more of my money. I'll give Vera way more of my money. I do love their screwdrivers. They make the best screwdrivers I've ever used. You need a 1.5 mil, yeah. That's one of the things I need to get better at. I need to get better at remembering tool sizes. A lot of the times I just say, oh, the one you use for an M3. Okay, that's a 2.5 mil. Is that a 1.5 mil? What is it? Okay, I'm just stealing the heat insides. I didn't actually explain what happened. So there was so much force applied to it that this has bent, that this backplate has bent. So I'm going to go back to using just 2 washers. Yeah, Belva washers. I'm going to use 2 of them like I did before and see if that will work. And hopefully it does. If not, then I need to do some redesigning to try and stiffen these plates up a little bit, which shouldn't be too hard to do. Oh yeah. Anyways, whilst I've still got people here, just a quick reminder to you, if you want to win yourself a roll of Ambrosia Filament of the Gods, there is a link down in the description below, which I'll reopen now. If you want to enter, make sure you head to that link and no. And I'll reopen it now. Sponsors. Perfect. All the sponsors are wiped. You can join yourself down below. Get yourself a roll of filament free, absolutely free if you're in the US or the UK. And whilst we're talking about stuff like this, why don't you throw a like my way, right? Because currently there's only 2 people who have liked the video so far as I can see. And it really does help. The more likes we get, the more interaction we get, the better these streams do. The better these streams do, the more likely I am going to be to make this my full-time job and do even more of these streams. M3 SCH is 2.5, BHCS is 2mm, M3 grub screw is 1.5. Joseph Carver, good luck everyone. You're only saying good luck because you've already won once. I see like 9 likes. I see 7 on my side now. I see 7 on my side. Okay, I'm getting really distracted this stream. I've got a job to do. Let me do this job before I forget. That's one nice thing having you guys here, is it forces me to actually do what I need on stream, but at the same time, you guys are really distracting. And I love the distraction, don't get me wrong. But I don't want you guys to, I don't want this to take 10 million streams at the same time. Google Forms is no longer accepting responses. I just updated it, so it should be. Published. Save. Try again, because it says it's open on my end. Don't know, first place is usually the winner, not 10th. Right, can anyone confirm that it's opened again? Can anyone confirm that the link is reopened and ready to go? Bleach 12. Hey Ray, how you doing? Is anyone able to confirm that the link is now working again? Because I've reopened it on my side. Still shows closed to me. Okay, I'll reset it. Okay, I'll try resetting it again. It's broke from A French. Hello, A French and John Flesher. Flesher? Fletcher. Fleshler? That's a really hard name to pronounce. Fleshler. Fleischler? Fleshler? God. I'm butchering your name. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Worked here. Paul Fallon says it's working. You got it, Fleshler. Perfect. Okay, so we got one person saying that it's working now. Do we have a second person saying it's working? Is it... Can I get a second? Can I get a second? Can I get a higher bid? Alex, yay, did it. A French. Yeah, perfect. Okay, awesome. Right, so yeah. Win yourselves a roll of free filament. Filament of the gods. If you're in the US or the UK. We have 4 more rolls to go in the US and 5 more rolls up for offer in the UK. We're only going to do 1 more this stream though. So awesome. Working from Alexander, working from John Fleshler. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect. And also a quick reminder, the Milo that we are building today, whilst it is an assembly test piece, it is also going to be up for grabs at the end of this series. I will just go. If you're in the UK and you want to win yourself a V1.6, understand that it's just the frame. The frame, the motors, all that kind of stuff fully assembled. You won't be getting any electronics with it, and you have to come and pick it up. If you can't pick it up, you need to be able to organize someone else to pick it up, or it to be sent via parcel. Understand that whilst I am going to assemble it to the best of my ability, it's yours to take care of after. If it does break, if anything does break, you feel free to let me know about it, and I'll do what I can to help you out, but I won't guarantee anything. My 1.5 kit just arrived from Fabreeko an hour ago, just waiting on the final parts to print. Can't wait to get started. Nice, man. Nice. Are you going to build V1.5 and then upgrade to V1.6? Gotta go, bud. Enjoy the stream. Good luck, people, in your prizes. Cheers, Dave. Can you trebuchet to Europe? If you supply the trebuchet, I don't see why not. That's the plan. 1.5 to V1.6. Nice. Shenzhen this. Boom. It reminds me of an episode of the Grand Tour. Sounds like a project. Oh, yeah. Oh, Brisket, you would love that, man. You would love a trebuchet. How many balls could we fly through the air with a trebuchet? He's fast asleep. Fast asleep. Alright, so it seems like 2 was the sweet spot. Two Belleville washers with this one. Who's a good boy? You talking to me or to Brisket? Right, I see 19 people watching and only 12 likes on my end. Give it a quick update. So, 19 people watching, only 12 likes. Come on, we can do better than that. Seriously though, thank you to all of you who come and support me during the streams. It really helps out. And if you are new here, pop into chat. It makes it a lot easier when I have people to talk to. A lot easier when I have people to talk to. I've just realized something. I've just realized something. I've just done something really dumb. This is for the Z-axis. I'm using the X-axis screw to do the tuning on it. So how do we get the trebuchet to the UK? 2 trebuchets. Yes. Now we're thinking. Now we're thinking. This is Ugga Dugga brain maths. This is the thing. This is the stuff I live by. Our new maxed out Z-axis when? Yeah. Yeah. I dumb sometimes. I dumb. Let's ask the Germans for their pulse engine. Oh, God. Let's not ask any Germans for anything, please. The third version. We did think at one stage to do a full proper column CNC. So we were thinking, before Atlas was a thing, we're thinking of using 3D printed parts, 3D printed molds to make a full epoxy granite one. The issue is whenever you talk about epoxy granite as a necessary part of a project, you lose most of the demographic that you're after. I'm German and I'm glad to have a pulse. Nice. Nice. It's the same with concrete. The issue is more the mess that you have. The nice thing about Milo is you can do it in a flat. There is no way I am doing a big epoxy granite pour, especially when I've got a dog around. Like, if you have pets, you're not doing concrete and you're not doing epoxy granite, because, correct me if I'm wrong here, concrete off gases as well when it's curing, and it's also quite toxic on the skin during the curing process. Once it's cured, it's fine, but concrete is quite toxic to you whilst it's curing. I think Atlas demographic is probably epoxy granite leaning. Yes, I think it's leaning towards epoxy granite. But the nice thing about Atlas is all you need is the plates, the parts, and an Allen key, and you can still make it. You don't necessarily need to do the epoxy granite stuff. So if you're not leaning towards the epoxy granite, then it's fine for you. You can still make it. Whereas the one that I was talking about just now had to be epoxy granite poured. The whole idea was that it was entirely made of epoxy granite. Yeah, what do I need? This is a painful stream to watch today. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm fumbling everything. I did the epoxy pour inside once. I have no desire to do it again. Yeah, it stinks. I have a liter of epoxy in that cabinet, and it's like triple bagged so that the smell doesn't leak out. I hate it. I hate the stuff. It helps. Don't get me wrong, it helps. But it's the ballast box for Milo is small enough that I can just fit it in. I can pour it in here and then take it outside to cure. I don't need to worry about the fumes harming me or my animals. Ray, go away. Go away. That's not a good joke. That's not a good joke. How can liquid be smarter than me? I don't know, but it can be. Yes. I ask myself this question every day. Concrete is a mess, bro. You are also renovating the apartment too. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I'm going to save this belt because I need it for testing some stuff for another project that we're doing, which is like a year or two away that we haven't announced yet. I guess it's a binding material. Don't encourage him. Yormond, don't encourage Ray. We are teaching sand to be smarter than us. Yeah, true. How many ideas do you all have? So, I'll talk about the ideas that I've made public. So the public ideas that we have is, I want to make a plasma cutter. I want to make a router. Not what Atlas is going to be. Atlas is technically a router, but it's also a mill. It's kind of an in-between. I want to make Atlas. Obviously, there's Milo and Miley. I want to do an injection molder. And then I have at least one more project that I want to do that has to do with something that you guys all know about very well, but I'm not going to tell you about it because I don't know whether or not it's viable. And a lathe will never happen from me. It might happen from Dave or someone else on the team. It won't happen from me. Not because I don't think it will be possible for me to design one. I think a lathe is actually pretty straightforward to design. Just because I don't think we could do it better than just buying a lathe and upgrading it to CNC. I've talked about it before. I'll talk about it again. You're not going to see a lathe from me. So table saw confirmed. I suppose, who was it? I think it was Jeremy Fielding, who has a CNC table saw, where all it does is the fence. You can set 0, and then the fence moves back and forth. An amount of time. Yeah, Jeremy did all the computer outfitting. Yeah, exactly. How is the audio, by the way? I forgot to ask this at the beginning of the stream. I've changed some of the audio settings because I was watching back a few of the older streams and the noise gate was quite high, so you'd only hear me speak like a second or two after the noise gate would only trigger a second or two after I started speaking. Whereas now, had to turn the sound up a bit. Audio's fine. Perfect. All right, good. Glad to hear it. Nice. Anyone have any ideas how much a 40k RPM ATC spindle cost? The ones that are 80 millimeters. A lot. Audio is great, better than earlier streams. Perfect. Not a bad project, and it's funny there's been some people with automatic stop blocks on a chop saw since then. Yeah. I'm never going to invest in a table saw that doesn't have the blade brake on them. What's the company called that makes them? So the moment it touches anything that's conductive enough, that's as conductive as skin, it breaks the blade. Saw stop, that's it. Saw stop. I'm never going to invest in a table saw that isn't a saw stop. Because woodworkers are crazy. Woodworkers are mad. Woodworkers account for, in the industrial sector, for like 80% of the cancer that is created, that is brought on by the industrial sector, because of the amount of wood dust that they collect. Table saws account for something like 60% of all dismemberments across all trades in the US. It's crazy. Henrik, nice of you to join us, bud. Hope you're doing well. Paul, I think that saw stop has finally entered the UK market. Good. Keep the tip, you dirty bastard. No. Yes, keep the tip. Tips of your fingers you're talking about, yeah? Not any other tips. He tried to get the legislation passed here to mandate all manufacturers license this patent. Nice. See, that's one of those patents where there's good patents. There's good patents and there's bad patents. The good patents need a lot of structure around them so that they don't get taken advantage of. For example, insulin. Insulin was patented and the patent was sold for $1 because the creator behind insulin wanted it to be accessible. He thought it was such a pivotal invention that he wanted everyone in the world to have access to it. But he sold it to a pharmaceutical company who then took advantage of it. Yeah. Niels Boland, a Volvo engineer in 1962. However, Volvo released the patent for free to all vehicle manufacturers. Yes, they did. But then something happened down the road, and now the US has insulin that costs $600 a bottle. Ball screws V1.6, can those be used for V1.5? I said this early in the stream. They will eventually come to V1.6. The issue I'm having at the moment is I'm running out of design time. So I had to make some modifications to the V2, some small modifications to the V2 anti-backlash nuts for the lead screws, which means that the ball screws don't fit anymore. They still fit on V2, but they won't fit on V1.6. Stop chasing me, camera. So they won't fit on V1.6 anymore. But the lead screw one will. And I'm running out of design time. So the ball screws will come eventually when I get the time to redo them. But they won't come on release. Yeah, they won't come on release. They will come eventually. I just need to get them done. I don't think it's too much of an issue because most people will be upgrading from V1.5 to V1.6 anyway, and they'll all have lead screws. So yeah, you're entitled to your opinion, but I prefer my fingers. My fingers shrugs. It's whether or not you shrug and you've got nubs, or whether or not you shrug and you have your fingers left over. If you are about safety, then release the patent. Yeah. $600 is for insurance thing. What do you mean? Source stop to dedicate key US patent to the public upon the effective date of the rule requiring safety technology on all table saws. Yeah. Who was asking about the Henrik? I hope that answers your question, bud. I hope that answers your question. Don't they keep tweaking the insulin recipe to keep it expensive? I'm not too sure. I'm not a pharmacist. I don't like to speculate on stuff I'm not at least comfortable talking about in terms of knowledge, in terms of a knowledge base. So do I, but I have been building and trimming homes for 30 years, and it makes no sense on a contractor saw. Oh, okay. So you like the little job site saws. Fair. Again, I'm not a carpenter. I think carpenters are mad for what they do. I think they're very brave for what they do. And obviously keep up the good work. But I obviously can't pass I can't pass judgment on something I don't know too much about. Also, why are shorts so popular? Because I've released 4 streams since I came back in January. I've done 4 streams since I came back in January, and I've released a whole new video. My short, which was just a facing up of some plates whilst I was testing whilst I was doing some tests on V2, that has more views than all my videos combined. And that's like 5 seconds. Why was that so popular? As I'm about to start building my 1.5, are there any must-have mods that should do from the start? If you can get someone to make you HOIs, yeah. HOIs, parts of iron you'll see the most improvement to your cuts there with HOIs than anything else. There's no single mod that will give you more improvement than the HOIs. People don't notice it's running before it's over, so I suspect loads of shorts are counted just because they're on auto. Yeah, I suppose. I suppose. I did look at the analytics though, and 98% of for the entire watch time of the video of that short, people made it through 98% of it. So people do look at it and go, "What's that?" and then watch the whole thing. I'm too old for shorts. Besides the ones you can wear with sandals and socks. All right, Linus Tech Tips. Awesome. So, the right screw this time. How to join the design team if at all possible. So, same as the Voron, guys. If you want to join the team, you join the community first. You be nice, help as many people out as you can. At some stage, we'll notice, because we always notice the people who are most relevant on the team. If you have a special skill that you want to let people know about it in the community first, and eventually you'll be invited if we think it's right. At the moment, we're probably not taking that many people on because most of the roles that we need are filled. We've got people who are doing content creation, we've got designers. The issue we had at the very beginning of Millennium is loads of people joined the team, said that they were going to do work, then didn't do it and left. So we a lot more picky now with who we invite on the team than we were back then. Hard to beat the little DeWalt's with the Iraq and pinion fence. Oh, you're talking about track saws. I love track saws for sheets, but I can't rip up cabinet filler with one. Yeah, fair. Fair. Right, I need to check the CAD on this one. I need to make sure I'm putting the screw the right way around. Pretty sure it goes in this way. Don't do what I'm doing. Don't take the carriages off the rails without rail keepers. Did I print that? No. Oh, damn it. Oh, damn it. I forgot to print the cap for the bearing block. So we're not going to be able to continue with that today. That definitely needs to be printed. Maybe I can get it started printing now. If I can get it started printing now, we might be able to get it done before the stream ends. Come on. Right, Orca Slicer, open up. I'm completely unreliable for doing actual work on a project like this, which is why I just give you monies. Fair enough. Fair enough. I work to be able to build things like Milo. Exactly. Exactly. And I work because I like doing this kind of stuff for you guys. I like being part of this community. I like being able to interact with everyone and make cool shit for you. There's no greater pleasure in this world than being able to make something for people in your community. There's just nothing. Nothing beats it. I will promise next stream is going to be a little bit more, you know, a little bit less chaotic and a little bit more focused on things, because this stream has been all over the place. It's been fun though. It's been fun. Right, assemblies. I need to print off CX's bearing block assembly. Oh, I hate Fusion so much right now. So Fusion had an update recently, and the update that they had broke all downstream assemblies for Milo V2. So I have to go through individually and update every single assembly from upstream to downstream until the main assembly, because now all the joints are broken. All the joints are broken. So I have to put everything back together and re-import it into the main assembly files. So that's one of the reasons that it's taken so long. It's taking so long to get V2 done, is because I keep finding assemblies that I have to go all the way back to the beginning of, to the original screw, and having to re-import it all. Damn, I just finished my 1.5 LDO kit. That's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it, because this isn't going to be releasing for a few more months still. All right, so you're not going to be behind anyone. And your V1.5 will be able to be upgraded to a V1.6, which has most of the features that a V2 has, just not the build area. All right, so you'll be fine. By the way, do you remember my lathe waiting to be set up after the workbench has been set up? We made progress. The bench is a thing now. Woo! Congrats, that's a good start to learn and prepare for V1.6 upgrade. Z on V1.6 will be direct drive assembly. Yes, it will be. The reason for that is because we're going to be speccing Siler for it. And if we're speccing Siler, we can go 48 volt. And you can actually use all the current that's needed. The reason that we went belt drive initially was because we could only run it up to 2 amps. You can only run the motors up to 2 amps. Most NEMA 23s are 2.8 amps, so you actually get that top end torque now. So you don't need to have that belt reduction anymore. Structural settings, slice, print plate. Why are you not? Why are you set as generic? There we go. Plate. Plate. There we go. That's going to take 23 minutes to complete. So that should be fine. We'll get back to that when we can. We'll do some other stuff whilst we're waiting for it. I'll move that over here for now. Okay. Henrik, is it Henrik or Heinrich? Henrik Jensen, can you tell me the dimensions of the ball screw for V1.6 and perhaps sourcing info? They are 0802 ball screws. I think they're THK or something like that. Can't remember the abbreviation they're for, but if you look up 0802 ball screws, you're looking for ones without machined ends. You're not looking for the ones with the machined ends. And by machined ends, I mean So this is a 1204 ball screw, and obviously you got the ball screw section, and the way that they do the sizes goes from, so say this is a 400 mil. Yeah, no, so this is 500 mil. So it goes from tip to tip, and that's the size of the screw. But the issue is about 50 mil of that is the machined ends. The reason you've got to be careful for that is because you can buy them without the machined ends on them, and those are the styles that you want to buy for V2. The reason you don't want the machined ends on them is because although if you have the machined ends on them, you need to have the correct bearing block setups for them, and you would need to design it very differently to the way we designed it. The way we designed it here means that it's just a drop-in replacement for the lead screw. More heat sets. How long have we been streaming for? We've been streaming for 1 hour and 49 minutes. God. That has gone way quicker than I was expecting. THK is a manufacturer. Yes, that's the one. It's the same thing about where we talk about MGN spec rails. We talk about MGN 15, but MGN rails are specifically made by Highwind, whereas you can still buy, like, the rails that we get from LDO are SLR 15C. Everyone still knows them as MGN 15, but they're SLR rails from another company. So it's one of those things. It's like 080 THK 0802s are the standard that everyone knows, but they're actually only made by a single company. And then you can just buy the knockoffs from other companies. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's fine to buy the knockoffs, sometimes it's not. Omron is a good thing. It's one of those ones where you never ever want to buy knockoff Omron SSRs because they will burn down your house. And if you are going to buy a non-name brand one, make sure it's rated for 2 or 3 times what you actually need, because you know for a fact that they are lying to you when they say that it's 30 or 40 amps, because in reality it'll be like 10. So if I want my houses burned down, in that case, learn fire breathing. It's a great pastime and a great way to burn your house down too. Is the V1.6 CAD step file public yet? No, it's not. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this test setup. I think it would have gone a lot faster if all the CAD had been done and was finished. A lot faster than it has been now. Paul Fallon, 9mm miniature linear rail is probably too generic a name, easier to recognize. MGN. Exactly. Exactly. But it is technically a stolen name. It's technically not the actual product, but the same with like Blue Tack. Americans won't know what Blue Tack is. I don't know any American brands that are generic. Where are... bearings? Cool. How? What? What is that word? Zero? Zeroed? Zerod? Zeroed? What is that? How do you even pronounce that? Is it zeroed? Is it just zero? Xeroxed. Gotta drop, have fun. No worries, dude. Cheers, John. Thanks for coming. Photocopier. Okay. I have never heard that word before in my life. To be fair, I am from the middle of East Africa where we didn't get very much of that kind of thing growing up, so I'm not surprised I don't recognize a lot of this stuff. It's like my mates in the UK always try and tell me about some TV shows they grew up on, and they always try and make references to them, and I have to be like, I don't know what these references mean. I've never been part of British TV culture. It's just never been something I've been interested in. We didn't, other than generic stuff like Top Gear, which we had, everything else was different. It's a company name. The name effectively became the word photocopier machines in the US. So in the end, the company lost the rights to the name. Ah, yeah, it's the same thing that Google's going through at the moment, isn't it? The inventor of photocopying called it xerography. Ah, cool. What's I doing? There we go. G-nuts. Nice. We don't really have Xerox in the UK either, though. Yeah, I've definitely never heard of it here. It's a new concept to me. We have Blue Tack in the UK. Do we have Pritt Stick, or is that a South African thing? Is Pritt Stick a thing here? Okay, so if you don't know, this over here, what I've been assembling is the floating bearing block. Effectively, it does the same thing that this piece on the end here does. So it's not actually rigidly mounted or anything like that. What it does is it helps with screw whip. So when you spin a screw really quickly, the center where all the mass is concentrated tends to whip a lot. So you try and support it on both ends. On one end, you support it in the radial and axial directions, so it can't move back and forth, and it can't move in a circular. It can only move, it's constrained in the circular movement, so it moves nice and slowly. But if you do that on both sides, when the screw heats up, you can start to break bearings. So you have a fixed side and a floating side, so the screw will expand in this direction. So the bearings that are inside this block here are actually slightly loose fitting, and they act to help the whip from being too bad and allow the expansion of the screw as well. Cigarette as well. I'm not sure YouTube would let me type the alternative. I don't want to know what I'm interested now. Don't write it, but DM it to me on Discord. Send it to me on Discord. We have Pritt Stick, yeah. Okay, Pritt Stick's a thing here. It's erasers in America, not rubbers. Is it though? Here's the thing. I know as many people who call them erasers as people who call them, rubbers in the UK. I think there's certain things that, because of American TV as a thing, have just been adopted by the UK. There's a lot of stuff that you'd be surprised that kids nowadays just say. So many kids I know say erasers. A rubber is a condom. Yeah, but so is a Johnny here in the UK. Is whisper leather. Now that's a good name for a condom. Whisper leather. Erasers are a thing on TV nowadays. Yeah, I suppose. Eventually, the UK will end up just having all the same slang as the US. It will just converge, especially with things like TikTok. Everything will just eventually. The English language is slowly coming back together again. American English and British English aren't. They're not converging. They're coming back together. Which is kind of a good thing, I suppose. Cool. I thought it would be Control Z only. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of all these covers because they don't actually fit that area anymore. Has anyone seen there's a Kickstarter out at the moment for, it's like a micron-sized machine. So it's effectively a micron, but when the bed homes, it tilts the bed forward. And there are some scrapers that engage when it does that tilting mechanism. And it's made for, and it has, the printer has a hole at the bottom of it, so it's meant to print continuously. So it knocks the print off, drops into a box down the bottom underneath the printer, and then restarts the print and goes again. I think it's really cool. I've been wanting to do something like that myself for a very long time. And I kind of got beaten to it, but they're charging $2,250 for a Kickstarter kit that is a micron-sized printer. Yeah, it's a bit sketchy. $2,200 is a lot of money for something that only has a build volume of 180 millimeters. We've been talking about that kind of system for continuous printing on Vikings a month ago, on #Vikings a few months ago. I think I saw it on Smurf, on some Smurf coverage. It wasn't at Smurf. It's only been released recently. It's definitely something I want to do. Okay. I know I said I wasn't going to say it earlier, but the project that I wanted to do that we're working on, I really want to do a 3D printer. I really want to do a 3D printer, but I want to build a 3D printer that is based entirely around it just working. I don't want it to be a Voron experience where it's constant tinkering. I just want it to be simple. It works. And it has one extra feature, which I'm not going to talk about yet, but I want it to be ball screw driven. I don't want any belts on it other than maybe a belt to shorten the size of the axes. What was the tilting gantry belted 2.4? That looks weak. Ah, yes, someone else looked at it. Again, it just looks overcomplicated to me. It just looks like there's so much that could go wrong there. See, I prefer machines like the VZ Bot, personally, despite the fact that I do have a Trident. The Trident was gracefully sponsored by LDO, so I'm not going to knock it. It's a great machine. In fact, it's come back from the dead recently, and it's one of my go-to printers instead of the Bamboos now. So I'm going to say the Trident does work, but I do want to move away. I do prefer the kind of fixed bed style machines. QGL and bed tilt are cool, and if they work continuously, they're great systems. But up until now, I've never managed to get more than 50 prints in a row before something's gone wrong with the tilting bed, the Z tilt. So I want, if I'm going to build a printer, I'm going to have it without the Z tilt on it, but I'm going to make something really robust. Kind of like, I like the way Pantheon does it. The only issue with the way Pantheon does it is that they have a patent on that whole system, that whole floating bed, floating gantry style machine. So we can't use that. But they don't bother with tilting beds, because when it comes to industry, the more complicated stuff you have, the more stuff's going to go wrong. The issue is it costs 10K. Yes, because A, they need to make a profit on it, and that profit needs to cover their R&D costs because they're a startup. So that makes sense. And actually, for what it is, 10K is not bad. 10K is really not that bad. For an industrial machine of that size, that is that robust, 10K is not bad. Not bad at all. It's the same with the Vision Miner machines. If you ever look at the Vision Miner machines, they don't seem very good. They seem kind of bog standard, but there's a huge market for what they are, especially at the kind of high-end prototyping side of things. It's also, clear part servo and ball screws are expensive. Yeah, they're not 10K expensive. If you're buying the hobby grade stuff, like the ball screws that we would buy off of Amazon or AliExpress, they're not that expensive. But if you're buying brand name ones, which they're probably buying, then yeah, I can see them being expensive. Each one of their plates, the plates that they use for all their indexing and stuff, at scale of about 100 or more, those would cost about $500, maybe less. I agree. I would love to have one. It seems worth it. I just don't want to have to spend 10K to. I don't have 10K to spend. Yes, yeah, it's exactly. So the patent that they have isn't for the top plate, as far as I'm aware. The patent that they have is for the combination top plate and the way that they mount their Z rails. Because if you don't know how the Pantheon printer is set up, it's one big machined plate at the very top, which has the rails mounted to it, which runs the X and Y gantry and all the motors and everything. Everything's attached to the same plane. And then going directly perpendicular down, they have holes for rods, and those rods are perfectly indexed 90 degrees to the plate itself. So everything's hanging off of that singular plate. What they have patented, if they've patented the whole system using those rods, they haven't patented just the plate. So I would like to try one day, far off into the future, to build a machine that's like 180 cubed that uses that same plate method. What is the benefits of ball screws over belts? Less maintenance, less backlash. If you, they'll operate in in more adverse conditions. They're just easier to set up. There's lots of cool things that they have. Ball screws are rigid, belts are really, yeah. Ball screws are very rigid. Yeah, there's lots of caveats to it. It won't be as fast. Belts have one advantage. Belts are much quicker on average. A belt system is, but the ball screws mean just longevity, and because of how solid they are, if you're using them in an industrial setting, it makes more sense because they're very repeatable and very good for that type of thing. Whereas belted machines need a lot more maintenance over time. Will it be high temp print? The issue with high temp printers, here's the big issue. This is why so few companies will advertise for machines that go over 60C or 70C chamber temp, because MGN rails and most ball screws are only rated to 80 degrees Celsius. Right. Anything more than that, and they will the balls inside the linear rails will expand too much and bind up the linear rails. Same with ball screws, things like that. So you need to buy high temperature variants of each one of those. And when you buy high temperature variants, those high temperature variants have a minimum operating temperature, which is usually around 90 degrees C. So you'd never be able to print anything like ABS, for example. That machine would only be for peak. It would only be for peak, right? Or PEC, or all the high temperature materials, because there are loads of different ABSs, common ABSs, that start to soften at 80 degrees C. So if you use components that are rated to that high temperature, you won't be able to use the normal, the kind of normal everyday ABS, PETG, PLA type materials, because they'll soften whilst they're being printed. So that only leaves you with PEEK and PEC and all those filaments, which cost you like $500 per kilo. So you've got a machine that you would use very rarely versus a machine that you would use all the time. Yeah, it's one of those things. I think it's one of those things where if you did make a very small machine that had a very small volume that needed to be heated up, you should probably put some kind of servo actuated flap on it, especially if you're running something like clicky clack doors or something that keeps the heat in a lot. And that servo should be always set to open up at 70 degrees or more, 70 to 80 degrees, somewhere in the middle, because otherwise you will cook your rails and you will cook your ball screws and everything else. I think the big guys like Essentium put it all behind heat shields between extruder and the nozzle. Yeah, there are ways to do it. Cryo cooling is a thing. You can buy ball screws that have water channels that go through them to keep them cool. A lot of the time they're chilled, and you see those in kind of high-end CNC machines. It's a lot more complicated than you think. High temp is a lot more complicated than you think. If you want to do high temp materials, but you can't necessarily reach the high temperatures needed, then you use something like a glass filled or a carbon filled material. That's the reason they get used more in industry. The guys at like Vision Miner always print in carbon filled or glass filled because it stabilizes the material, and that's why they can get away with printing some PEEK or PEC style materials, some small, admittedly they're quite small parts. They can get away with doing that because that glass fill or that carbon fill stabilizes the material. If you've ever printed glass filled ABS, you know that it comes up perfectly every single time as long as the nozzle doesn't clog, because it fights against the warping. Like in kern mills, everything's temperature controlled, super expensive. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And think about it like this, right? So 1608, is it 1608? Yeah, I think it's 1608 ball screws are pretty common in smaller CNC machines. And you can get cryo-cooled versions of those. And those 1608s are normally like a meter long. They're a meter long hardened steel. And they have a hole drilled from one end to the other that is perfectly centered through hardened steel so that they can cryo-cool them. Do you know how expensive those ball screws are going to be? Those ball screws will cost more than like a new kitchen refit for me, just for one ball screw. You're easily looking at a single part costing in the range of 5 to 10 grand. So when you look at something like the Pantheon machines, and they're only charging 10K for what they are, for what it is, right? You go and you look at that and you go, that's extremely cheap for industry. That's extremely cheap. Right. What can I do whilst we're waiting? Anything I can do whilst we're waiting? There's not really much I can do. Suppose I can take the motor off here. I'm ranting way too much. Apologies for the rant. I'm feeling a bit rambly today. Here for the rants, we'll stay for the Milo stuff. Nice. Yes. Ramble, talk is good. Honestly, didn't know that about Rails plus temp stuff. Yeah. Here's the thing I've learned a lot in this. So I filmed a video that you guys will hopefully see within the next week. If you're on Patreon, you'll get it a day early. So that's just another incentive to join the Patreon if you like that kind of stuff. But everyone will get it eventually. But I did film a video talking about why I'm going to be taking the ball screws off of this machine and replacing them with lead screws. And it's not really aimed at just talking about the hardware. It's aimed at kind of educating people around what to actually expect from designs rather than just looking at spec sheets. Because the thing is with ball screws is ball screws are a big, wow, they're amazing. They're great bits of engineering. And honestly, they're great. But they have their use cases like everything else does. And if you're just buying a machine based on the fact that it has ball screws, then there's a good chance you're going to be disappointed. Because depending on how those ball screws are implemented, right, you might not get the performance that you want. And it has to do with the engineering. You need to understand the intent that the engineer has when they're designing something before you can actually judge it. So for example, I talk about the fact that if yo again, I have to go, have fun, people. Cheers, dude, thanks for coming. And no worries at all, bud. Ooh, that print's just finished. Has it? I think it has. Yeah, it has. Yeah, so on V2, unless you're only wanting to use single flute end mills, I think you should go lead screws. I don't think you should go ball screws. Again, this is way better explained in the video because I actually had a script, but that'll be releasing soonish, hopefully this week. Ball screws will still whip if you're not well designing them. Yeah. It's also, like, what I mean by intent is like limitations as well. So we've got to work within limitations of what's available off the shelf, don't we? As hobbyists, we can only use what's off the shelf. Right? There are very few occasions where it's okay to have a custom part like XY plates and stuff like that, where it's cheap enough to have a production run for that kind of stuff. But for the most part, we're using off-the-shelf parts. Now, if the off-the-shelf parts are too expensive for what you're going to use, but there's an alternative that's less expensive, you're going to use the alternative, aren't you? In this case, instead of going the high feed 0.08 ball screws, the high feed 8mm ball screws, which cost like $500 a piece, we're going to go with the standard 0.802. So they have a 2mm pitch rather than a high lead angle, which means that for every rotation they go less far. So for people who want ball screws, we're going to choose the ones that are easier for people to source, because again, you can only use the stuff that's off the shelf, and the other ones are way too expensive. I'm explaining this really badly. Watch the video, it'll come out soon. It'll come out soon. It's hard to understand how much industry pays for stuff. I always remember Haas mills are bargain at only 100K. Yeah, exactly. You gotta be careful what you mean there, because I think it's Michael Much who uses Milo as a production machine. It's about expectation, right? Milo can do a 1/10, maybe even 1/100 of a millimeter continuously all day long, right? And for the majority of what people are doing at home, that's more than good enough. Way more than good enough. In fact, I would actually say that if you have an Etsy shop where you're selling stuff like that, a 1/10 of a millimeter is probably going to do you fine, right? A 1/10 of a millimeter repeatability is going to do you fine. We've been living with a 1/10 of a millimeter repeatability with 3D printers for years now, and people still sell those parts, right? Where what you're paying for with Haas, however it's pronounced, is the ability to have that machine run 1/1000th of a millimeter on parts where that 1/1000th of a millimeter is critical every single time for the next 2 to 3 years. Because that machine will often pay itself off. So if it's 100K, the Haas will probably pay itself off within the year. And then it will live for another 2 years. That's what you're paying for with that 100K. And companies know that. That's why they can charge that kind of thing. Right, that print has just finished, so there we go. Oh, back to what we were doing. Okay, so I need to put a bearing in this little piece down here. There we go. Okay, I'm probably going to put the screw on. I still need to print the cap another time, so I'll do that next stream, hopefully. We're going to put the screw in and get it tightened down on the fixed side, at least. And then once that's done, we'll probably end the stream. We'll do the giveaway. Alex, if you're still in chat, do not let me forget. Do not let me forget to do the giveaway before we leave. Henrik, I looked at swapping my screw on my V1.5 to ball screw 1204 for the 0802 or even 1002, 1004 for better stiffness in the housing. Can we cut down to 50? Yeah, so that's another thing. That is another thing. Our intent at Millennium or at Voron is that you should be able to build all our machines with an Allen key. All right. So Phil on the design team has ball screws in his Milo. His reaction to it, his honest opinion of it, right? And I'm not just putting words in his mouth here. He will tell you this exactly the same, is you would never do it again. Because the gains that he has seen from doing that modification have been so minimal, he might as well have kept the screws, and he wouldn't recommend doing that mod again. Not saying if you want to do it, go ahead. It's your machine, do it. It will be an improvement, but we can't spec that type of thing because you can't do it. You can't put those screws in without modifying the ball screw nut. And if you're modifying the ball screw nut, that then takes it out of the limitations that we've set ourselves. We don't want you to have to buy a grinder to build a Milo, right? We want you to be able to build it with just an Allen key and maybe a drill. Oh, I may have to do another order from Accu. I may need to do another order from Accu. Who is that one person who hasn't liked the stream? Yes, one person who hasn't liked the stream. Good on you, Ray. Well done for sticking it to him, reminding him that for every single like I get, it means the channel gets more popular, it means the project gets more popular. The more popular the project gets, the more time I can commit to it. The more time I can commit to it, the more machines I can get designed, and the more streams I can do, and the more videos I can do. I am just stealing. I need to stock up on a few more bits. I did do an Accu order earlier in the week, but I'm obviously missing a few fasteners still. And I also need to, I'm also running really low on the CNC kitchen inserts. So I need to also stock up on some of those. Random Q, why not keep a parts bin of like 200 screws in the common types to get all the cold, to get into that cost break? I do. I have like 3 of these bags of 10mm screws, and they've got 200 each of them. I've just bought 100 M3x40s. I do buy a lot of screws. I just go through a lot of screws as well. And sometimes I don't exactly know what screws I need because the CAD's not finished yet. And sometimes I just forget to add them into the CAD, stuff like that. There's lots of like little things that you don't see that go behind the scenes. Like nothing is ever as smooth as you think it will be behind the scenes. Sometimes there's going to be a day where I forget this screw or I forget that screw. Yeah, I do try and order in loads of screws whenever I can. Hence the reason I have like 15 of these boxes full of just fasteners. Can you make parts in PETG? PETG is very flexible. You don't want flex in your CNC. I'm going to go back on what I said a few years ago when this project started. PETG by itself, no. I'm going to say no go, don't do PETG. It's way too flexible. And like Ray said, you want the stiffness from it. But a good, and remember here, a good carbon or glass-filled PET or PETG is fine. Right? Don't buy the cheap stuff. Don't buy the stuff from Everyone because it's not very good. Right? But a good glass-filled or carbon-filled PETG will be fine because it stabilizes it and it gives it that extra stiffness. Just make sure there's two different types of carbon fill. There's milled carbon fiber and there's chopped carbon fiber, right? Chopped carbon fiber is the stuff that you get when you want to do actual good structural parts. It's more expensive, it's harder to extrude, it will clog up a lot easier. Milled carbon fiber is what you get when people try and sell you carbon fiber filled filament that's really cheap. It's a lot cheaper, it flows better, but it adds absolutely nothing to the print itself. Because effectively, all you're doing is you're putting carbon fiber dust into your filament. You want chopped carbon fiber and not milled carbon fiber. That's why I say don't get the Everyone stuff, because when they first started doing it, I don't know what they're like now. When they first started doing the Everyone stuff, it was milled carbon fiber and not chopped carbon fiber. In fact, the milled stuff is so bad, it gives you all the detriment. So you lose the layer bonding of the original material, and you don't gain any of the stiffness from the carbon fiber itself. The only thing that you gain from it is you gain the matte texture and the nice kind of textured look that it gives you. Everything else is a downside. The Everyone stuff might have changed by now. I don't know, I haven't used it in a few months, but it's cheap because it's milled carbon fiber and not chopped carbon fiber. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to have to do another fastener order because I don't have the fasteners I need to do this stuff. This is normally all the stuff that I would do behind the scenes, but because this is the first time I'm putting this together, that's why you're seeing all the zits and boils that you normally wouldn't see. So I'm going to end the stream here because it has been like 2 hours as well. So before we end, we need to do a giveaway. Alex, you were meant to remind me about the giveaway. Perfect. If you haven't done so already, there is a link down in the description to enter to a giveaway for some Ambrosia Filament of the Gods. Right? We did one at the beginning of the stream, and we're going to do one at the end. If you're in the US or in the UK, you can enter to it. And I'm going to close it in 1 minute. You have 1 minute before I close it off completely. We have 8 people who have responded so far. Eight people who... No EU. If you have a friend who's in the UK or in the US and you want to send them some filament instead, you can also enter. Effectively, all we're going to do... all we're going to do is we're going to send your email to either Alan at West3D or Dave at DMS, depending on where you are, and then we will go from there. Cement filled PETG. No. Ray, no. Just did. I posted a mod design to stabilize the Z tower mounted on base. Cool. Yeah, you can send me the filament if you want. I did get a mystery package from Dave the other day filled with some ambrosia. It was pretty good. So I do have some. Right, you have 30 seconds. 30 seconds until I close your orders. Your orders? Until I close the the entries. Right. Whilst you're waiting, any last questions if you have, any last things that you want to add to the conversation, do it now or forever hold your breath, or until next stream at least. Send him some mystery filament box without labels. Yeah! Nice. Oh, stop tracking me. I really hate the fact that it keeps tracking me by accident. I need to turn it off. I need to figure out how to turn it off. There we go. Right, you've got 10 seconds. 10 seconds left. Do you add extra weight to your machines? Yes, I sometimes use epoxy granite. We talked about it earlier in the stream. If you live in a place where you don't mind the smell of curing epoxy, then do it. It does add some rigidity to the machine. It does add some vibration dampening. It can only do good things. It will never do bad things. I'm glad to have the Milo in the garage. Need to do more milling on it. Everyone needs to do more milling on it. No more cement-filled jokes from me. Perfect. There, now I can return to being quiet. Perfect. Awesome. Right, so I'm going to close the giveaway now. Right, no longer accepting responses. Right, there are 10 people. Right. Right, let's get the wheel back up. Awesome. And we're just gonna whoop, just like that. Paste it all in. Right. Around and around the wheel goes. Where will it land? Nobody knows. Sweet. So, Alexander Romero, you have won yourself a roll of Filament of the Gods from Ambrosia from West 3D. I'll double check. I'll send you all your details over to either Dave or to Alan so that you can pick up your filament spool. So keep an eye out in your inbox for that. Will the Direct Z make it easier to fill later and remove while moving? Yes. So you should be able to just take the new epoxy granite ballast box. Should just be easy enough to take out. You won't need to disassemble too much. Right, you here? Right. Congrats, Alex. Congrats. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Right. The two winners of the contest for today. Well done. Congrats. I will be sending your emails off in a bit to make sure that you guys get your stuff. So hopefully you'll be receiving an email soon, right? If you don't, let me know and I'll make sure to poke the right people. To everyone else, thank you all for coming. It has been a really good stream. I know we didn't get very much done. I was very distracted today, but that's fine. It's how things go sometimes. So thank you very much for all that. If you do wish to support me, there are some links to my Patreon and to a PayPal link down in the description. Thanks to you guys, we actually doubled our you doubled my income, which makes it a lot easier to do the things that I do. All right. We still have a ways to go before I can make this my full-time job. So if you do want to support me, please do so. If not, just having you here helps immensely. So thank you. Have a good night, and I hope to see you next stream. Bye now.